Salve deviatores, and welcome back to Let's Translate Phaedrus' Fables. We've got a long one today, as you could probably tell by the video time, so I'm not going to waste too much time with the introduction. I am translating through Fables in Latin, written by a man named Phaedrus. Here are all the fables that we are going to be reading through. Today, Tiberius ad Atriensem, Tiberius to the steward. Est Ardalionum quaedam Romae natio. I believe it's just... yeah. I think it's like that. Trepide concursans occupata in otio. So, let's just take it similar to the last fable. I'm going to try to just translate each word in the order that they are in, and then put it all in English word order after we've got all the definitions. So first is est. Est, just the basic third person singular for is from sum. Ardalionum is from ardalio. It is the genitive singular of ardalio, which means like a busybody. Somebody just trying to keep busy, doing all the things. Quaedam is the feminine nominative singular form from quidam, which means a certain person or a certain thing. So a certain something, but that's actually going to be stated. Romae, of course, is from Roma, and this could be the genitive or dative forms, but here it is the locative. Locative is not as used, not as well known as other cases, but it is used sometimes. I believe in proper nouns for places, place names basically, and domus. For some reason, domi is the locative form from domus. So, basically, at Rome. The locative case just shows location, as you might assume from the name. Natio is just the nominative form, and we get the word nation from it. It's also like a species or a group, like a grouping, or a kind. And so, let's put this into English word order. There is, because est at the beginning of the sentence, not just is, but there is, which also, est at the beginning of the sentence in Latin is weird. Usually the verb comes later in the sentence, but here it's the first thing. I wouldn't be surprised if this was for the meter. For those of you who have not watched my other videos on Phaedrus' Fables, these fables are not prose, they're not just written generally, they are poetry, and so they are written in meter, iambic hexameter to be specific. And so, because it's poetry, weird things will happen, weird things will be done just for the meter. Of course, it still works grammatically, it's just kind of weird looking. And also, all the weird stuff that happens for meter is part of what throws me off, and that's part of why I try to steer away from poetry. And that is also why I am not translating this poetry into English poetry, because that would be a lot. But there is a certain kind of busybody. Oh, whoops. At Rome. Or, I guess, for this in Rome, we could say. Trepide. Trepide is an adverb, meaning nervously, or fearfully, jumpily? Something like that. I'm just going to go with nervously. And concursans is a present participle as shown by the ns ending. No, it is not concursantes. So ns ending, present participle. Participles are nouns or adjectives formed from verbs. Concursans is from concurso, which means to like run about. Or I guess just run, well, running, participle, around. And yeah, let's just running around nervously. So we've got the present participle, and then occupata, which is a perfect participle. Occupied. Occupato from occupo. In otio, in, the preposition just means in or on, at least with an ablative following after it. If it's not infinitive, if it's an accusative, then it is into or onto. Oh, hi, Hamlin. You're a boy. He's a boy. Yeah. Say hi to Hamlin. He says hello. And otio. Otio is the dative or ablative form from otium. Otium is, when I took a class on Latin love poetry, it was either Catullus or maybe Ovid who talked about otium. And for that, it was leisure, like leisure time, which, you know, people kind of need in order to write poetry. But here, it's kind of a bad thing, kind of idleness. So occupied in idleness, like they're busy being not busy, is my sense of what Phaedrus is saying here. In fact, I think that'll be supported in the next line. Gratis anhelans multa agendo nihil agens. So gratis, adverb, of course, as I've marked. I still need to figure out how I should mark participles. What do you all think? How should I mark participles? And should I mark perfect participles differently from present participles? I don't know. But gratis, adverb, meaning like freely, or maybe like gratuitously, but I think freely works here, especially with anhelans, another present participle, which is just breathing, or I think more specifically exhaling. So freely exhaling kind of works. Exhaling freely, freely exhaling. I think either one works. Multa agendo, multa being the ablative feminine form from multus. Much, well, really, with much. Agendo, this is still present. The ND shows that. And it's from the same verb as agens, ago, which means to do. So with much, wait, is that, okay, so yeah, this is a present passive participle. Concursans and anhelans were present active participles. Agendo is the present passive participle. So with much being done, nihil, nothing, agens, doing. So doing nothing. Yeah, let's doing nothing with much being done. So they're like doing a whole lot. They look like they're running around, like breathing a lot because they're all running around. I assume like they're panting, or not, maybe not panting, but breathing more heavily. But they're not really doing anything. Just being busy for the sake of being busy. Sibi molesta et alis odiosissima. So sibi is the dative form. Well, I guess it's not the dative form of anything. It is the dative reflexive pronoun. So to oneself. Molesta is from molestos, which is an adjective, meaning I mean, we of course get the word molest from this, but here it's more like tiresome or troublesome or annoying. Let's say annoying. Annoying to oneself, and, very common word, ought to know it, and aliis, dative plural here. Sibi is dative singular, aliis is dative plural from alios. Alios means another, or just others. So, to others, and odiosissima. This is the feminine singular form from the verb, not a verb, adjective odiosus. In fact, not just that, it is the superlative. The sissi shows the superlative in Latin, at least many times. I don't know if there's an exception to that, but that's how I identify it. So, and to others, the most, and if you know a little Latin, odio, not Latin, Spanish, odio. So the most hateful, disagreeable, I guess really hated is really it. Odious. Also, I guess unpleasant. Yeah, let's do unpleasant. And to others, yeah, annoying to oneself and to others, the most unpleasant. I kind of like how it goes, how you've got the adjective at the ends, and then oneself and others in the middle. It's kind of a fun way to have the sentence. So that was all just one sentence, by the way. So let's go over it real quick. There is a certain kind of busybody at Rome, running around nervously, occupied in idleness, freely exhaling, doing nothing with much being done, annoying to oneself, and the most unpleasant to others. Ooh, actually, let's, instead of annoying, how about irksome? I just remembered that word. Yeah, that's a good one. So honk is the accusative form from hic. Accusative, feminine accusative. And these are all feminine, because they're like occupata, molesta, odiosissima is all feminine, because they're still all referring to natio, the kind. I know it's a certain kind of busybody, but we're not really referring to the busybody. Grammatically, these are all linked to natio as the main noun. That's why everything here is being feminine currently, because natio is a feminine noun, including quaedam. Quaedam is also feminine. Technically, concursans and annihilans, they're feminine, but there aren't different forms for present participles, or based on the grammatical gender of the word that they're modifying, which I guess it's technically modified, but that's so many arrows. I don't know. But honk, this, and emendare is the infinitive, the active infinitive form from emendo, which means to correct or improve. I'm just going to go with correct. So the infinitive is translated as to correct this. In fact, I mark infinitives with that and object. C conjunction, tamen, another conjunction, possum, volo, I think vera fabula, pretium est operae attendere. I think that's just how you do it, because I don't know. This next line is actually weird. I'll get to that, though. So, hanc amendare, to correct this, see if tamen yet... That's at least how I always translate it in my head. It's the first thing that I go to. It's actually... Wait, right? Yeah. If you've watched a couple of my other videos, you will know I get conjunctions and adverbs mixed up all the time. I still translate them okay. I just keep saying that one is the other. I should see. See. Are you also an adverb? No, see is definitely a conjunction. But tamen is an adverb, so I circle that. But it means yet, however, still, nevertheless. Ooh, yeah, this is gonna have a fun one. So possum is for to be able. So possum is just the first person singular present active indicative form for to be able. So I am able, but really I want to put it if I am yet able, because we can have fun with the word order like that in English. Volo, if you know the phrase Deus vult or Deus vult, vult is from volo, which volo is actually the first thing you'll see in the dictionary definition. So it is the first person singular present active indicative. I want or wish or Deus vult will, but I want. And this is kinda... Oh wait, no. Okay. The next line, like, technically the idea goes into the next line, which confuses me a bunch. So really, we want the verb to go first, because the verb includes the subject. In English, we want the subject before the verb, when the verb before the object. So I want to correct this. Yes, that is it. And vera fabela. Oh, I think fabela, I think it would be. Because verus is an adjective. That vera is the feminine, one of the feminine form, well, two of the feminine forms, really. It could be either nominative or ablative. And here, we've already got our subject with possum and volo. Well, so here we already have our subject with possum and volo. So this is not our subject. It is ablative. So, and verus, if you know veritas, that means truth. Verus is the adjective form of that. So ablative with and true, adjective of truth. And fabela should look familiar because it's similar to fabula, fable, or story, but it is the diminutive. So, like, with a true little story, or I guess short story. And with a true short story. And let's finish the sentence before I go into a little tangent. So, pretium. Actually, would that be the subject here? Pretium means price or worth. And I believe... Let's say price. Est, we've already seen, is operae. That could be either genitive or dative from opera. Opera means a work or a service, that kind of thing. And then attendere, another infinitive, and it's from attendo, which is exactly what you think it is, to attend. And this little bit I've had trouble with. I think it is worth... Wait, why did it translate to, why did it change it to with? Worth. Stupid thing. It is worth... I don't know whether genitive or dative. I haven't found So I like to check my translations. I like to cross-check my translations with other people's translations, and I haven't found a translation that I'm particularly happy with for this line. The Gutenberg translation that you should have a link to in the description, that says it is worth your while to attend, which, yeah, I guess I could cross the whole thing, but where is Operae? And the book that I at least had sourced in the prologue for the Fables of Phaedrus that has all the translations, that one, like, you'll see the actual translator's name on screen, but that one translated as by a true anecdote that deserves attention. It's weird. I'm trying to figure it out. It's mainly Operae, and I kind of want to try. It is, well, the price of the work is, but I don't see what est is doing then. Because is worth, but pretium is already the price. And this isn't a participle, so the est is just on its own. Okay, looking at the Lewis and Short dictionary entry, they provide a couple examples down near the bottom with Livy, or at least one example with Livy that specifically has operae pretium. Hold on. Is it just a common thing for operae to be used with pretium? There's another one. That's also from Livy. Worth or value. Yeah, it seems pretty common. Especially in phrase pretium curae and more frequently pretium operae, a reward for trouble. So worth the trouble or worthwhile. But I want to know what it's literally saying. Like, it's worth the work? It is worth the work? Can operae be a weird thing for when it's in the plural? I guess it's often just used in the plural. And it can be used as spare time or effort. So, like, it's worth the time, worth the effort. Attendere, to attend. I suppose that's how it's supposed to be then. But, like, kind of efforts. But we don't say that in English, so I guess that's just the best way to translate it. And so, what was the Project Gutenberg's translation again? It is worth your while to attend. Pretty much, just without the your. I mean, I guess you could insert your, as technically Phaedrus is speaking to the reader, but yeah, it's kind of weird. So basically, Phaedrus is saying that there are people just kind of going around doing nothing while kind of looking like they're doing a lot, and that they're really annoying, apparently to themselves, but also to everyone else. And the moral of the story, I guess, is supposed to be, don't be a busybody that also does nothing. But let's see what the actual story is. Caesar Tiberius cum petens. Yeah, I guess I'll just do that. It's kind of inconsistent with the rest of it, but fine. Arrows. This is gonna look so bad, though. Yeah, because technically it does. Just connecting that arrow. Yeah. Okay, so Caesar Tiberius competens Neapolem. Yeah. In Missenensem villam veneset suam. I guess there. Yeah, let's keep marking up until here. Quae Montesumo posita luculum manu prospectat siculum et perspicit tuscum. No. Tuscum mare. Okay. So, Caesar Tiberius, Caesar Tiberius, the second emperor of Rome, the, what was he, like, nephew of Augustus? The guy that Augustus really didn't want to be emperor, but ended up being emperor, who really liked to not be doing his job. Caesar Tiberius, cum can either be a preposition or a conjunction. The preposition has to take the ablative. We have no ablative here, so it is the conjunction. So the conjunction means when. Petens, we see once again the ns ending. So present active participle from the verb peto. Peto means to, it could mean to ask, but it can also mean to beg or ask, or, ask, implore. But it can also mean to seek, aim at, or desire, kind of similar to volo. I'm going to say seek. No, desire. Yeah. Desiring Neapolim, Naples, or Neapolis. I'm going to say Naples just because translating it in English for a modern audience, Neapolis is the ancient name for Naples. It is also a weird ending for Latin. That's not a usual Latin ending, but that's because Neapolis is a Greek word, and it's just borrowing Greek. I think it's kind of inserting an M instead of an N, because I think it would end in a nu or N in the Greek, but I'm not completely sure. My Greek I've used it far, far less than Latin, so correct me if I'm wrong on that one. But at the very least, accusative singular form for Neapolis. So when, let's put that at the beginning of the sentence, when Caesar Tiberius, okay, so this is not the main part of not the main verb, when Caesar Tiberius, desiring Naples, in, we saw it already, means in, unless it's using the accusative, which these are accusative, so it means into, or onto, or sometimes just to, like here. Missenensem is an adjective from missenenses, missenensis, which is sort of the adjectival form of Misenum. Misenum was a town in Campania, southeast of Rome. And, well, I guess Mycenaean. And villa, or villa, literally just a villa. Oop. So to the Mycenaean villa, or to his Mycenaean villa, veneset, from the verb venio. It is pluperfect with that ise there plus the typical ending, third person singular. So he had come. Oh, the his is suam, duh. Yeah, that's basically what suam means. It's also feminine and accusative to agree with willam. Oh, wait. Missenensem is There we go. Because that's an adjective, modifying villa. So when Caesar Tiberius, desiring Naples, had come to his Messenian villa, quae is from qui, which is a relative pronoun, which, and it's still feminine just because it's modifying villa, the villa which, monte, from mons, mountain, and monte is the ablative form. Sumo is from sumus, which is like the highest, and is agreeing with monte. So highest mountain. Posita is a perfect passive participle, positus, from the verb pono, and that means placed or located. But I don't think that works here. I guess you could say positioned? I don't know. It's kind of weird for English, because I think really we would say built. Because luculi is the genitive form from lucullus, and manu is the ablative form from manus. Manus is hand. So essentially, which was placed on the highest mountain by the hand of Lucullus. That's essentially what it's saying. Yeah, and placed is weird because it's almost like you're in a god game or a strategy game and just placing down a building. But, I mean, usually for this, you would say built. I'm just going to keep placed, but you could translate it how you want. So this is actually interesting, because we are getting the mention of another historical figure. Lucullus is specifically Lucius Licinius Lucullus. I'm not going to go into too much detail, because it's not really needed for this fable, but basically, he was very wealthy, was apparently pretty close to the dictator Sulla, and so because of its wealth, he built a bunch of different villas all over the place. And somehow Tiberius came into possession of his villa near Miseno, which, with the historical context, let me also tell you that this story is kind of, I guess we could kind of place this near the end of Tiberius's life, because in Tacitus, I think one of the last books of Tacitus is Annales, he says that Tiberius, near the end of his life, came to the villa that Lucullus had built at Miseno. Well, I'm saying Miseno, but Misenum. So, kinda neat. We've got a little bit of context for this story. Which also means, I think, how I described Phaedrus' life, it kind of sounded like he didn't live past the reign of Tiberius, but actually he did. Considering this is just the second book in the 5 books, Wait a second. Okay, this throws off my entire chronology, unless this is just out of order? Because who knows if the order that we are given the fables in the manuscripts is the original order? But this implies that book 2 was written near to or after Tiberius's death. But this is also, he doesn't refer to his persecution by Sejanus until the 3rd book. But again, maybe this was actually written later and then put earlier in the manuscripts. Either that or maybe Tacitus is wrong, but I know scholars place a good bit of faith in Tacitus. Not all of faith, because Tacitus could definitely be wrong, but this is interesting. Oh, this is fun. It's interesting to see two different sources, completely unrelated, but they're kind of at odds, or one kind of calls into question the other. But this is, in the prologue, this is part of why I really wanted to mention how we don't know much about Phaedrus, and all we can go by is his fables, which may not even be completely trustworthy, either by Phaedrus not telling the complete truth, or the manuscript, like the copiers or the manuscripts not being completely accurate. I don't know. It's a fun question to try to. It's a fun puzzle to try to piece together. But either way, enough about the historical context of everything. Phaedrus, Tiberius, Lucius Licinius, Lucullus, whatever. Let's just continue with the Latin for now. Prospectat is from prospecto. I think this is just present. Yeah, just present active infinitive, third person singular. It means to just look forth, basically, look forward, look out. So he looks out. Siculum, accusative form from Siculus, Sicily. So at Sicily, he looks out at Sicily. And at perspicit, this is from perspicio, which literally is like look through, or I guess see clearly, maybe. Yeah, I guess. And sees clearly, though I don't know, that's weird, because perspicio is from per, the prefix is for through, spicio is from specio, perspeccio, and specio is to observe, watch, or look at. Maybe just observe. And sees clearly, or observes the tuscum. This is, I think it's more, this, no, yeah, I marked it as an adjective. Tuscum, tuscus is the nominative form, and that is Tuscan. So, like, the Etruscans were north of Italy, not of Italy, but of Rome. Sicily, of course, was far south. So, from Campania, well, Misenum, he could see Sicily, but he could also see the Tuscan mare. If you know the phrase mare nostrum, our sea, he observes the Tuscan Sea. Yeah, I think this would still be Tiberius as the subject. That's what I'm assuming, because I don't think metaphorically a villa can look out onto other things, but I think I'm going to keep Tiberius as the subject. But, moving on, ex altecinctis unus Atriensibus. I guess that technically goes there, but unus is kind of just in the middle. Gosh darn it, Phaedrus. But ex, you might be able to guess, preposition from takes the ablative. Altcinctis is kind of a funny word. It's an adjective modifying Atriensibus. It literally means, what was it? High girdled? Basically, like, girdle, I think is the rope, like the belt that they use. And when you pull it up high, you're getting ready to do some work. You're busy. So really, it's kind of metaphorically means busy. So yeah, basically what I said. Having the rope, the girdle, hucked up so that the tunic would get less in the way while they're working. So yes, busy or active. And unus is just one. Atriensibus, atriensem, atriensis. Atriensis is a steward. Basically, someone that's helping take care of the home. But here,
it is... Unus isn't really part of the prepositional phrase because it's not in the ablative. It is nominative. So one from the busy stewards, qui tunica ab humeris lenteo pelusio erat districta, geris dependentibus. Actually, yeah, let's come to that later. So first, qui. In fact, maybe the relative clause goes there. But qui, relative pronoun, as you might guess. It is dative. So to whom or for whom. Let's try for whom. Tunica is just a tunic. And I think it's just in the nominative here. It has to be the nominative or the ablative. And of course, the one is not the subject here, because in the relative clause, it's dative. The tunic ab humeris. Ab is a preposition taking the ablative, meaning from, or at least it can mean from. And humeris is from humerus, which, if you know anatomy, means shoulder, because it's plural. Lenteo is from lenteos, an adjective. Not adjective. It is adjective. Okay, so it's even weirder, because I already thought this was weird, but I figured it out, I'm pretty sure. So lenteos means linen. Like, not the linens on your bed, but the linen that those linens are made from, if they are made of linen. And Pelusio is from Pelusium, like the city Pelusium, which is a city in Egypt. So linen, Pelusian linen, so linen from Egypt. And this is where it's kind of weird, because for whom the tunic from his shoulders, linen Pelusian, well, it's ablative, so like with or from, but they're essentially, well, let's get to the verb first. Erat districta, perfect passive participle, which, so the erat is just going with it. Districta, or districtus, is from distringo, which means, like, to strip. So, was stripped. So, for whom the tunic from Pelusian linen was stripped from his shoulders, is essentially what it's saying. But the tunic from Pelusian linen is weird, but it's essentially made from Pelusian linen, because this ablative is a usage that I don't see a whole ton. It is ablative of quality. So the quality of the tunic is from Pelusian linen. But a lot of the time, I see it translated kind of just like possession, the tunic of Pelusian linen. I'm going to go with that, because it just sounds better in English, but I do not blame anyone for going with from, because it technically still works. It's just a little weird, and it's more literal to the Latin. So, for whom the tunic of Pelusian linen was stripped from his shoulders, I think, actually, this is an ablative absolute. Kyrus could mean a curl. Well, kyris is the ablative or dative plural from kyrus, and it could be a curl or the fringe. So the fringes or I guess ablative, with the fringes. Dependentibus. It is from the present participle dependens. The entibus ought to hint to you that. And it is from dependeo, which means to hang down or wait. So I guess with the fringes hanging. Yeah, with the fringes hanging. That works. So ablative absolute, it is a participle plus a noun in the ablative, and they are absolute or completely independent of the rest of the sentence grammatically. So I think this is an ablative absolute. It's kind of, usually I see them with a perfect passive participle, but maybe it is? I don't know. I think at least stripped from the shoulders with the fringes hanging, like off the shoulders, ought to be, I think that works. In fact, I think this is an ablative absolute. Perambulante laeta domino veredia? Well, maybe not that. Actually, yeah, I think this is also an ablative absolute, because we have perambulante and domino. Perambulante is a present participle from perambulo, which means to walk around. So, walking around. Laeta is happy, or I think lush, really. Domino, from dominus, or anno domini, it means lord or master. Let's go with master. Let's do lord. And veredia, from veredis, it literally means green, but it could, would this be metaphorically or metonically? I think it's metonymy for using a part of something to mean the whole, to be like the whole thing, like someone's wheels being their car. So I think the green or garden, because it's plural. So while the Lord walks around, and then laeta and veredia, I think, are in the accusative, actually. As the object of perambulante was walking around the lush gardens. And like I said just before, participle plus noun, both in the ablative, separate from the rest of the sentence. Alveolo coipit ligneo conspargere. Which one is the noun? I forget. Is it this way? Yes. So, well, no, because we're not done with the full idea yet. Humum aestuantem. So now, the full well, not the full idea, but the main idea. So, alveolo is like a trough, a wooden trough, or watering can, basically. Coipit is from coipio, which means to begin. So he began. Coipit is the perfect tense from coipio. Or coipi. Coipi. Oh, coipio is the older version, whereas coipi is more classical and later. Okay. Oh, wait. No. Old Latin, like coipio or something? Coapio? And then classical Latin coipi. And then late Latin coipio. That's weird. Okay. Well, this is perfect tense from coipi, which means to begin. So he began. Ligneo means wooden, and conspargere is the infinitive of conspergo, which means to sprinkle. Which, I mean, in English, you're probably picking up what I'm putting down. We would just say to water, but I'm going to say to sprinkle. And since alveolo and ligneo are in the ablative, they of course are agreeing for a wooden watering can. So he began to sprinkle with a wooden watering can. Yeah, okay. Wooden watering can. And he began to sprinkle humum. Humus is the nominative. And that just means the ground. The ground or floor, all that. And aestuantem, if you have seen my one-winged angel video, you may recognize aestuans, present participle from aestuo. In medieval Latin, it becomes just istuo, like just estuo. The A gets dropped from the diphthong in the beginning. But it means burning. So, the burning ground. So he began to sprinkle with a wooden watering can the burning ground. So the ground was very hot, apparently. Come is ablative. Officium. I think we could have that as the object. And Yaktitans is present participle. Yaktitans is from yaktito, which means to utter, mention, like literally throwing remarks. Let's say uttering. Officium is literally like a duty or an obligation, but it can also be an act of kindness, favor, courtesy. So uttering, I guess, a courtesy. And come is the ablative from comis, which is kind. Wait, it is not the ablative. Oh, it's the neuter. That makes more sense. Neuter modifying officium, because officium is neuter. Uttering a kind courtesy, or gracious or polite courtesy. Sed deredetur. Said, common not preposition, conjugation, conjunction, meaning but. And deredetur, you may notice another English word in there. One, this is passive. Two, third person singular. I think it's just perfect tense. No, it's present tense. And of course, it is from derideo, which means deride. But he was derided or mocked. I'm just going to keep derided. It's not often you get to use deride. So far, apparently, this one steward, I guess, took off his tunic, or I don't know, maybe it's supposed to be some other kind of clothing made of really fancy linen, took it off from his shoulders, and he's like Tiberius is walking around the garden, and this guy is sprinkling the ground with water to cool it down. I guess trying to offer something nice to Tiberius, trying to help him in his walk, but he's being made fun of. Inde is a conjunction. Notis flexibus praecurrit alium in zeistum. I think there. Sedans pulverem. Yeah. So inde is a conjunction, meaning from there, or if you want to have fun with your translation, thence. Notis flexibus. So notis is from notus, which kind of sounds like it. Noted. That's a perfect passive participle from nosco. So really known, but I think of it as noted. Flexibus. Ooh, I guess no, known is better. Flexibus is the ablative or dative form from flexus, which means a bend or a turn. So thence, this is actually a bit of an ablative absolute too, isn't it? Having known the turns, praecurrit, praecurro. Curro is to rush. Prae, the prefix is like before or in front of someone, so he rushes, because I believe this is still present, I guess before alium, the other Tiberius, in Zeistum. Zeistum, accusative as you may guess, so into or to, let's do, yeah, we're going to do to again. Zeistum, it is from Zeistos. It is borrowed from Greek, xustos, which is essentially like something right before a covered portico. Essentially a covered portico, or like an open walking colonnade, like a walking path with columns, sometimes covered with a roof. And honestly, I'm not even going to translate it. I'm just going to say Zeistos. No, let's say the portico, I guess. Nah, I'm not translating it. Zeistos, because it's fun to say. Sedans, present active participle. So it is from sedo, which means to settle or to sit. So I will say sitting, pulverem, from pulveris, not pulveris, bleh, not pulveris, pulvis. Pulveris is the genitive form, but pulvis. So, oh no, it isn't sitting. Why would I think it is settling? Pulvis, the dust. I don't know what exactly his goal is here. Because I thought it might be that he's settling the dust in order to hide that he rushed over in front of Tiberius, but maybe he was trying to settle the dust for Tiberius? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Agnoscit hominem Caesar remque intellegit. Agnosco is the first person singular form of agnoscit. We get the word agnostic from this, and it means to recognize or realize, discern, but really I think recognize is better. Hominem, the accusative form of homo, which is just a human, but we could say man here. Caesar, of course. Caesar. Remque, the que suffix, so we have and rem. Rem is the accusative from res, which is a thing or a matter. And I'm going to go with matter, even if thing is always hilarious to use. And intellegit is from intellego, which means to understand. There we go. So, better word order. Put the sentence all together. Caesar. What the? There we go. Caesar, our subject, agnoscit, recognizes our object, the man, and intellegit, understands rem, the matter. So Caesar's already realized what's happening here. Now this is the weird thing. Okay, so id ut putavit esse nescio quid boni. Actually, maybe not quid there. I think there. I think this is a weird sentence for multiple reasons, but let's try to translate it first. So, it's just a pronoun for the neuter form of the pronoun is ea id, he, she, it. Ut, so ut could be a couple different things depending on whether following is the subject, not the subject, the subjunctive or the indicative. Putavit is the indicative. So as, and putavit, if it was the subjunctive, it would have been more purpose, so that, but here it's the indicative, so it's more like a comparison, I guess. Putavit, from puto, a lot of the time I've seen it being as suppose, or consider, and putavit is perfect tense, so as he considered, esse, infinitive from sum, the verb to be, it's to be nescio. That's just what you'll see in the dictionary for nescio. So first person singular, present active indicative. I do not know. Quid is another pronoun from quis. It's the neuter form, so it's quis is who, quid is what, and boni, it's from bonus, which could either be an adjective or a noun, and it could either be nominative plural or genitive singular. And I guess of good, and this sentence is weird, because I think you kind of gotta reverse it. I do not know what of good or what of fortune, maybe? Since malus can be misfortune, bonus can be fortune, like good fortune. It should maybe to be as it supposed. It's really awkward. Basically, Phaedrus is interjecting here and wondering what he doesn't know what good thing could come of this. But this sentence is also really weird because if you look at one of the main texts I use is the text in the Latin library, which there's a link to in the description of each of these videos. You'll notice this line is not there. But I also have the text from Perseus Tufts, which I also link to in each video. And this line, like this line is there. It's right there. But id doesn't really make sense, as this is referring to, I think this is still referring back to atriancibus. Or maybe not atriancibus. Or maybe it is. Yeah, I think this is still referring back to atriancibus. Or maybe homonym. But those are masculine. Id is neuter. Well, I have another source for Latin in the description. A book, an old book on the Internet Archive that I found. And this one does not have it as id, but is. Which makes sense because that is the masculine pronoun here. Which would make it, instead of it, he, supposed. Which makes a bit more sense. It's still weird and awkward, but it still makes a bit more sense. At least my translation is weird and awkward. I'm sure someone else could do it better. But why are there all those differences? It's probably because of the differences in manuscripts, if I were to guess. Of course, I haven't found any manuscripts, because trying to find digitized manuscripts for Phaedrus is very difficult, at least online. I would love to see them, like how I found digitized manuscripts for the Carmina Burana in the One-Winged Angel video that I referenced earlier. But yeah, I'd imagine this is because one manuscript has it as id, another one has it as is, and another one has it not at all. So yeah, just a weird line that may not even be there originally. But anyways, I do not know what a fortune to be as he supposed. I do not know what a fortune as he supposed it to be. Sounds a bit better? I think I'll go with that. Heus inquit dominus ille enuero assilit. So, Heus is an introduction. Just like, hey, or as I would prefer, oi. I use oi a lot in my everyday speech, so I enjoy oi quite a bit. Inquit means, like someone says, he says. From inquam. Oh, it could also be perfect, right? So let's say he said. And dominus, so that's, dominus is nominative. So the Lord said. Ille is nominative masculine singular. For that, like that man, referring back to the steward. Enuero is kind of two adverbs together. Enim, which is indeed, vero, meaning truly. So it's basically just a double positive, yes indeed, or certainly, but yes indeed, I think fits the word better. Assilit is from assilio, which means to spring up. And it's present, so that man, yes indeed, springs up. So he gets off. Well, no, he's never on his knees. But he gets up from watering the ground when Tiberius addresses him. Donationis alecer certae gaudio. So donationis is from donatio, which you might guess is donation. A donation or a gift. Alecer is an adjective, but since we don't have a noun subject, alecer is in the nominative, so we just assume it's like eager, like the eager. Let's just say steward. It could. You sort of imply the man, but it's the same guy as ille and unus ex altinctis atriensibus. So this eager steward, in fact, I'll put it in brackets, just to show that it's implied. Certae is certain. From certa. I think certus. Yeah, it's an adjective. And gaudio is from gaudium. Dative or ablative. And that's like joy. And since donationis is genitive, it's modifying gaudio with possession. Certae agrees in gender number in case with donationis. So it's modifying that as an adjective. So let's say alecer, the eager steward. Oh, I guess this is technically the subject of assilit. Why is there a comma in here then? That's weird. Because there's no verb other than that. The eager steward. I guess then that eager steward steward. Yes, indeed. Springs up with joy, gaudium, or gaudio, of a certain gift, or maybe reward. Let's say that, with a certain reward. Dum sic iocata est tanta. I guess maybe that, like, it's not adverbial. It's not an actual adverb, but kind of ablative with a that's kind of adverbial. Maestas ducis. Well, I at least know tum, conjunction for then. Seek is an adverb thus or so. Iocata is from iokatos, which is from the verb iokor. This is a perfect passive participle. So then so, I guess, was joked. Well, tanta was entirely joked. Well, no. No. Tanta is just an adjective modifying maestas, I think. Thinking about it more. So, was joked. Tanta, from tantos, which means, like, of such size, measure, so great. Such maestas, majesty, just replacing the I with a J, the later letter. And ducis. Ducis is the genitive form from dux, which means a general or a leader. Of the leader. So, well, maybe not joked, but then so the majesty of the leader, so great, was played, I guess. Let's do something like that. It's almost like the majesty of the leader was played in a game, but no, I think it's just him. It's him using his majesty to play the joke, really. And now this is a quotation, I'm pretty sure. Non multum egisti et opera nequequam perit. And opera is an object, I think. So non, not, multum, I think we had seen, yeah, we saw near the beginning with multa, but now it's multum, much, egisti. We've already seen agendo and agens, now it's egisti, which is from the same verb. But it's second person. Second person singular perfect active indicative. So you did not do much, and et. Oh wait, no. Opera is not the object. I'm tired. It's kind of late. But it is the subject. And kind of your work, opera. Which, did we see opera before? This is such a long thing. This is such a long work for what I usually do. It's pretty long. And I'm not seeing it, but it may be there. There it is, operae. And your work, perit. Perit is from pereo, which means to vanish. There we go. And it's just present, so vanishes. Nequequam. Uselessly. A nice adverb. Multo. Majoris. Alipi. Mecum. Veneunt. Is mecum technically an adverb? Yes, it is. So, multo is an adverb meaning by far or by much. Majoris is from major, which is an adjective meaning greater, but it is genitive of greater. Alipi is from alapa, which means a slap. Well, it slaps. Because this is the subject, it's not also genitive, I'm pretty sure. Mecum is an adverb, meaning with me. Because literally, me, cum as a preposition means with, and me, Veneunt, it's just the third person present active indicative from veneo, which means to be sold. So, are sold. Wait, so is there a passive for that? There apparently is. How do you have a passive of to be sold? Because this isn't to sell, it's to be sold. That's weird. I wonder if it's ever actually used. Anyway, so at least to put it in a little better word order, slaps are sold with me, technically of greater by far. But I think this is technically genitive of value. So literally, slaps are sold of greater value by far with me. Basically, slaps are worth much more with Tiberius. But what the heck? Slaps? What do slaps have to do with anything? Well, part of manumission was the master slapping the slave. So he's saying, if you want your freedom, you gotta actually work for it, bud. And yeah, there we go. That's the whole fable. Took quite a while. But I did enjoy it. I liked the historical context in there. I enjoyed a little bit of other historical context with slaps. I enjoyed getting thrown off with the timeline for Phaedrus. I enjoyed this line being different in each version of the text I looked at. Yeah, it was a fun time. As for the actual fable, I get what Phaedrus wanted to do here with the moral. And actually, yeah, I guess it worked. Yeah, I think this Tiberius story was pretty, kind of shows for it. I don't know. I kind of feel like, at least for me, it's everything surrounding the story. The little bits here and there that really catch my attention. The fable itself, Yeah, I wasn't super enthused by the fable itself. It's mostly, oh, it's Tiberius. Oh, it's Lucullus. Oh, why is this line different in every manuscript? But, yeah, I think it was a fun time. But anyways, let's go to a reading of the Latin and then a reading of the English and end this off. Est Ardalionum quaedam Romae natio, trepide concursans occupata in otio gratis anhelans, multa agendo nihil agens, sibi molesta et aliis odiosissima. Hanc amendare, si tamen possum, volo vera fabula, pretium est operae attendere. Caesar Tiberius cum petens Neapolim, in Messinensem velam veneset suam, quae monte sumo posita luculi manu, prospectat seculum, et perspicit tuscum mare. Ex altecinctis unus Atriensibus, qui tunica ab humeris linteo pelusio erat districta, Geris dependentibus, perambulante laeta domino veridia, alveolo coipit ligneo conspargere humum aestuantem, come officium iactitans sed tereditor. Inde notis flexibus praecurrit alium in zaistum, sedans pulverem. Agnoscit hominum caesar remque et deleget, is ut putavit esse nescio quid boni. Eius, inquit Dominus, ille enemuero assilit, donationis alece certa et gaudio. Tum sic jocata est tanta maestas ducis, non multum egisti et opera nequequam peret, multo maioris allepae mecum veneunt. There is a certain kind of busybody in Rome, running around nervously, occupied in idleness, freely exhaling, doing nothing with much being done. Irksome to oneself and to others the most unpleasant. I want to correct this, if I am yet able, with a true short story. It is worth the effort to attend. When Caesar Tiberius, desiring Naples, had come to his Byzantine villa, which was placed on the highest mountain by the hand of Lucullus, he looks out at Sicily and observes the Tuscan Sea. One from the busy stewards, for whom the tunic of Pelusian linen was stripped from his shoulders with the fringes hanging, while the lord walks around the lush gardens, he began to sprinkle with a wooden watering can the burning ground, uttering a kind courtesy. But he was derided. Thence, having known the terms, he rushes before the other to the Xystus, settling the dust. Caesar recognizes the man and understands the matter.
I do not know what of fortune as he supposed it to be. Oi, the lord said. That eager steward, yes indeed, springs up with joy of a certain reward. Then so the majesty of the leader so great was played. You did not do much, and your work vanishes uselessly. Slaps are sold of greater value by far with me.
If you've made it this far in the video, then thank you very much. This was a bit of a longer one, especially with a couple digressions mixed in. But, I don't know, I like those digressions. Either way, I hope you enjoyed the fable. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of them as well, and the ones before this. Next time, it's not going to be any shorter, sadly, but I feel the moral of the next fable is really interesting, and is one that is definitely debated upon in the modern world. So, I hope you look forward to that. Until next time, remember to spay and neuter your pets, et valete viatores.